All right. So obviously, I had given you the hint as to what this is all about. We're going to go now into Proverbs 1, 15, and 16, which will kind of help us understand this, right? My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Now, if you want to know what, you got to go back to other verses before this, but it explains who them is, and I'll let you know shortly. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. So here we see there's a walking movement. Okay, that's not a good idea. There is foot, right? Feet. There's walk, way, path, and run, right? So all in 2 verses. That's a lot. And this is not talking about literally walking. It's talking about what happens on the what? Inside. So them, according to Proverbs 1:7b, are fools who despise wisdom and instruction. They don't want it. They have their own idea. So that's who the them is. All right, so now let's look at something else. What is a foot? Now we got that part down. A foot is what? Thoughts, all right? So refrain thy foot from their path. Wow. So a foot is a single what? Thought. Then what are feet? Thoughts. Yay. All right. The crowd goes wild. And here we go. Feet is thoughts. All right. So if foot is thought and feet is thoughts, then what's walk? What's walk? Thinking. Exactly. Right. So walking is what? Thinking. All right. Now you tell me what's going on inside of me. Ready? Watch. I'm going to give you an example. Ready? Now, what happened? Did you see the battle in my head? And it was expressed in my what? My walking. Now, if you're walking with somebody and you say something that just pisses them off, walking along, they stop, and they will not go any further with you. They hit the brake. Yeah, they just burn. Nope. Because they're walking with you means they're thinking with you, but the moment you say something that offends them, they stop. Nope. They turn their face away, right? I'm going the other direction. I'm not any part of this. So walking is an expression of what goes on in our head. You ever been in a hospital and see someone doing this? Right? That's rapid thoughts, one after the other, and it's not good. These are rapid. He's almost running, isn't he? Rather than relaxing, he's just like pacing back and forth. That will drive you nuts, right? But what's going on? His thoughts are filled with what? Fear, doubt, worry, and they're one after the other, And you see it when he's there. He's like, oh. You see him, he's stressed out because one thought's after the other. And the person, he's about ready to pop. When people, when you're dealing with foot is thoughts, feet are what? Foot is thought, feet is thoughts, walking is thinking, then what would be running? When someone, because it says here, their feet run. Where are they running? Well, here's what running is, right? Running is running is uncontrolled or unexamined thoughts in rapid succession. Understand? Okay, I'm going to run. Oh, right? You understand? I'm running. My thoughts are going fast, more fast than I can control. I'm not examining every step. I just want to get out there. It's just act. Whenever you and I just have an action, we think without, we act without thinking what we're doing, and the first one always causes the second one, third one, fourth, fifth. We're running. We run to evil, right? They're not examined and they're not controlled. Will you see this word run? Yes. Will you see feet in the scriptures? Yes. Will you see path, foot, walk, way? Yes. Jesus says, I am the what? Way. 1, 2, 3. So what's a path? A trail wide enough for 2 people that can walk side by side and talk. Our path can also be one person going this way and another person going that way. Does that make sense? 2 people either walking together or going the opposite direction. But what's a way? What's a way? What is it in Spanish? Camino? Mm-hmm. What's the path called? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's look at the way as it's used in the Bible and the culture. It states a way, a trail wide enough for 2 people walking with their animals and carts. One could be going one way, one could be the other way, or both of them can be side by side as they talk with their carts and their animals. And you'll be able to see that in Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. It's still the same. Nothing's changed. In India. Is this cool? This is going to make a lot of sense now as you go to the Bible and find these words. Want me to find some of them for you? How many would like me to show you some of them? You ready? And the crowd goes wild. Now, let's start with this. That's a picture, right? All right, and let's go to Exodus 3:5. That's where this is at. Go grab your Bibles. Let's go to Exodus. Now, I'm going to have you read the Bible very carefully. Don't project into it. Read what is what? Written. Everybody ready? Chapter 3. We're going to start with verse 1, right? Which is right before verse 2. We're going to read that whole chapter. Okay? Ready? Now Moses, we're in verse 1, where I am anyway. Everybody there with me? Chapter 3, verse 1. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to a mountain of God, to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. Now, who's in the bush? Who's in the bush? Well, it says an angel, right? Angel's a messenger. Can you be a messenger? Yes. Can angels be a messenger? Yes. Right. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burned. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the midst of the bush. Wait a minute. Who's in the bush? An angel. But here it says it's God. How does that work? Is it God or an angel? You ever have those questions? People say it was God. Some people say it was an angel. Which is it? Well, the Bible says it's an angel. Well, who called him out of the bush? God did. When was God in there? How does God wind up in there? All right? All right, now let's play. All right, let's pretend. All right. Do you have a cell phone? Okay. So let's say she calls me up on the cell phone, right? Ring, ring, ring. And I go, hello? And she says, now, I'm going to talk to the cell phone, yes? And I say, Mr. Cell Phone, tell Mariposa hi. Everybody will look at me weird. I'm not talking to Mariposa, I'm talking to my cell phone. Mr. Cell Phone, tell Mariposa hi. She's going to hear that and think I've lost a couple marbles, that I'm too short of a six-pack, right? One. A hamburger short of a Happy Meal. Anyway, so do you understand the problem? You don't talk to your what? Your cell phone. Your cell phone just speaks what you tell it to speak. What does an angel of God do? Speak as God gives them the utterance to speak. Angels are, we want to call it, ancient cell phones. Now, when I was in, I know it's hard to believe, but I got in trouble when I was 20 years old, and I wound up going to the magistrate in Malaysia. I didn't speak Malay. I didn't, and the judge didn't speak English, and they couldn't find a translator. They finally got one, and as I was sitting there, you're not supposed to look at the man's face. You're supposed to look at his feet, which I think is stupid. If he's talking to me, why shouldn't I look at him? But no, you look at his feet. So I had to look at his feet. Anyway, he says, do you understand what you're charged with? He speaks in Malay to the translator. And the translator says, do you understand what you're charged with? And I turn and look at him. I go, no, I don't really understand. And all of a sudden he screams. And the guy says, don't look at him, look at me. I go, I am looking at you. Oh, this was a bad idea, right? I got into all kinds of trouble. People had to grab me. I almost did. The guy before me got whipped. They take off your shirt and they whip you. It's not like you say, like in our courts, they go, what is it? They go, what do they call that? Contempt, showing contempt. I was showing, from their point of view, as contempt, and I needed to be whipped. And I was like, so I had to learn not to do what the other guy before me did. I really didn't want that idea. So did I learn? Yeah, you look at his feet. You don't look at the translator. You don't. I had to get a guy pulled me over and go, listen carefully. Here's what you do. He spoke English kind of funny, but thank God he spoke English. So the guy speaking is like your cell phone, but the person you're talking to is him. I speak to him through his feet, and he hears me and then translates it, but I do not speak to him. He does not what? Exist. Only the administrator does. Do you understand? I had this most scariest time of my life. I thought I was going to be thrown in prison for like a year or two. In those places, they don't have food and medical. You have to have people bring you food. You're there. There is no food, no medical, nothing. Not like the United States. You have to have people who care about you bring food for you, or else you starve. So it's a different world. And if you have no one that loves you and you get arrested, you will die in prison. It's rough. I heard though they've changed it a little bit more since when I was dumb and stupid. All right. So what are you talking about? First, there is someone who has connection with who? God. And is speaking as God tells them, as God gives them what? Utterance. And they speak no more, no less. Exactly what God says. So if she's speaking by her cell phone, and I talk to her, I'm not talking to Mr. Cell Phone, and she's not talking to Mr. Cell Phone. She's talking directly to me, and I'm talking directly via the what? Cell phones. So is God in the bush? God's cell phone is in the bush, and he's talking to the cell phone, and God's speaking to the cell phone to him. Does that make sense? That's what a messenger is supposed to do. I learned this from really unnerving and scary experiences. Okay. Now, we continue, and we are in verse. And when the Lord saw, verse 4, turned aside to see, God called him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. Wow. And he said, here am I. That's me. Now, verse 5 is really intriguing. And he said, draw not nigh hither. In other words, don't come any closer. Put off thy shoes, that's your sandals, from off your what? Feet. What do feet mean? Right. Thoughts. For reason, the place where thou standest is what? Holy ground. Now that's intense. Now I know we got a nice little pretty picture here, but it doesn't say he was kneeling. It says, what does it say? It says he was standing. And he didn't get any closer. And he didn't take off his sandals. I know the picture shows it, but he didn't. So, what does it mean to have shoes on your feet? We know what foot is. We know what feet is. We know what walking is. But what does it mean to have shoes or sandals on your feet? What do sandals do for you? Pardon? Why? Why do you need them covered? I mean, have you ever barefooted around without your shoes on? I mean, just, next time you're on the street, just take off your shoes and walk barefooted. Next time you're on the dirt, like you're out in the desert, take off your shoes, just walk barefooted. The answer is what? No. Why? Because you're going to hurt your what? So the purpose of sandals is to protect your what? Yeah. So if feet mean thoughts, and God tells him to take off his what? He's defending his what? Thoughts. And he didn't take them off. So let's see if we can see any evidence of this, right? So I'm going to read it to you. Watch along with me. Chapter 3. Moreover, he said, now remember, thou standest. He's not kneeling. He's not sitting. He's standing. And if you're standing, you don't take off your sandals while you're standing. Moreover, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrow. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of the land unto a good land, and a large unto a land flowing with what? Milk and honey. Guess what that is? It's a metaphor. What kind of metaphor is this? Wouldn't you like to have a land filled with milk and honey? Just walk around in it, slosh, 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 and sticky, gooey. What is it? All right, how do you make milk? You don't. You put grass in the front, and out comes the what? Up the milk when you squish them, right? That's called cow juice, right? All right, so how do you get honey? Well, the bees, what do? You don't have to do anything. You just take some smoke and go, and the bees all run away, open it up and take the honey. So a land flowing with milk and honey means a place where you don't have to do any effort for it. Got it? So what do you feed a 3-year-old? Milk and honey. What does he do to earn it? Nothing. All right. Now you understand why it's called milk and honey. Cows don't, just stuff the grass in the cow's mouth. Out comes, then you take the handle and you squeeze it. Now comes the cow juice, right? So, flowing with milk and honey onto the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites, Pizzites, and all the other rights. Okay. Verse 9. Now, therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppress them. Verse 10, God says to who? Moses. Does he still have his sandals on? Yes. Is he still standing? Yes. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee to Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And notice the response of Moses. And Moses said unto God, who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And God said, certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be the token unto thee, that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the children out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon this mountain. Moses said to God, behold, when I come to the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, the God of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say unto me, what is his name? What shall I say unto them? Did God ever reveal his name? Nope. Would you like to know what God's name is? Jehovah. Nope. Elohim. Nope. You'd like to know what it is? Okay. Let's go to Genesis. Keep your hand there, foot, whatever you'd like to use. All right. So I want you to tell me the third word in verse 3. Chapter 1. What's that third word? Said. Haya. All right? Now, verse 6. Where's the third word there? Said. Haya. So basically it means he who said. That's all Haya means. Because everything was brought into existence by God what? Speaking. Right. So it's called Haya. So when it comes to the formation of all existence, and which is God, it's he who what? Said it. So, someone say, I'm going to close my eyes and say something. Someone say something. All right? Who said that? That's her name? No, she goes, I said it. Right? Me, I said it. You're supposed to already know who she is, right? She goes, I did. I go, who are you? You're supposed to know God, right? Right. What is God's name? It's Haya. He who spoke. The very first one who ever spoke that brought everything into what? Existence. That's why when you talk to Jews or Muslims, you have to refer to God as the scriptures as his breathings. Because to speak, you have to what? Breathe. So everything that comes from God has to be from his breathings. So God spoke. And that's what happened. So Moses said to God, behold, when I come unto him, the God. Now, isn't it awesome? He's so smart. He's smarter than God. Or, yeah, back to Exodus chapter 3. Isn't it awesome that he's so smart? That he's smarter than God? And he says, well, they won't believe me. No, how does he know? How does he know? And God said unto Moses, verse 14, and it says, and God said unto Moses, I am Hayah. Okay, it's Hayah, Hayah. I have already spoken that I am the one who spoke. Not that I am that I am. That's the stupidest translation I ever saw in my life. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, Hayah has sent me unto you. He who spoke. Now, if you wanted to see it in full glory, let's go to Romans chapter 4. Romans chapter 4. And we're going to see the full statement here. Romans, Acts, Romans, Corinthians, lend me your ears. Okay. All right. Chapter 4. And it says, yes, it's right before chapter 5. Chapter 4, verse 17. Now here it is, God introduces himself. Verse 17. As it is written, I have made thee the father of many nations, before whom he believed, even God. Now, who is God? Who what? Quickeneth the dead and calleth. That's the Hebrew word. What? Hayah. Those things which be not as though they were. So God speaks of things that are not as if they are, and they what? That's who he is. God has always spoken and has always come to pass. All right, back to Exodus. All right, so we see that if you look to and just continue on here, verse 15, and God said, moreover unto Moses, thus shalt thou say to the children of Israel, the Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. And he goes on, telling them about exactly what's going to happen, blow by blow. I mean, every aspect of it. And then chapter 4, verse 1. And how does Moses respond after God detailed it for him so he could not miss it? That he would do it without any repercussions, understanding the majesty and magnitude and power that God was giving him. How does he respond? Verse 1. And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me. God must be awesomely smarter than God. Nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee. All right. So, and he tells them, okay, here's what's going to happen. Most of the stuff that God told him, exactly what happened. Only if Moses had done what he told him to do, Moses didn't. So God says, all right, if this happens, as you say. So everything was covered. And verse 10, God says, okay, got you covered. Ready to go? And verse 10, and Moses said unto the Lord, oh, my Lord, I am not what? Eloquent. I got speech impediment. I got speech. I can't talk right. Neither hath nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant. But I'm a slow speaker and a slow tongue. All right, do you know how many points you get by arguing with God? Why is he resisting and fighting against God? What is God trying to do? These thoughts and images he's giving to Moses is there to change his perception. Yes or no? To trust God and bring to pass and deliver God's people. I got slow tongue, I don't speak fine, and all this crap. All the excuses. We're going to come back to that, all right? But what was God trying to do? And why couldn't he do it? Why was Moses arguing all the time? And has to do with what? Feet. So let's find out. We're going to look at every place, not every place, but the majority of places where it's used. So we're going to come back to this image, which is totally BS. He's not on his knees. There's his sandals. He's always standing. He's never took his sandals off. The word says so. So this is BS. But anyway, let's continue on and do some little bit of working with the rest of this. So, Psalm 116:8. We're looking at all the places. I'm not every one. We'd be here all day. But I'm selecting, I'm basically every third or fourth one. Psalm 116:8. For thou hast delivered my soul from death. That's pretty intense, yes? My eyes from tears. That's cool. And my feet from, all right? How can my feet fall anywhere? They're kind of like on the ground. I understand this part. Thy soul from death. I hate dying. That ruins my whole day. My eyes from tears. That's cool. But what about my feet from falling? How can, if your feet are on the ground, how can they fall? It doesn't say trip. It says fall. I can trip, but that's not what this word is. It means going from here to there. Does that make sense? So what does this mean? And how is it your feet? Now remember, Moses, God gave him this high point. Go to Pharaoh, do this and do that. These were high aspirations. Yes or no? Deliver my people. Those are like way up there. Well, if God promised it, is he going to keep it to pass? He's going to bring it to pass. That's why he puts your feet on high, and he's not, because it's what he says, he's not going to let you what? Fall. God says, this is where you are. This is where I see you. This is where you're going. This is where you already are. God speaks of things that are not as if they what? Are. Now you set your feet there. And God brings it to what? To pass. Psalm 119:59. I thought on my ways. Remember this from Proverbs, same thing. I thought on my ways and turned my what? Feet. They're going in the wrong direction. Turn my feet onto thy what? Testimonies. There's another one I didn't put in here, was he makes my feet like what? Hinds feet. It's talking about the mountain goat. Mountain goat is the only animal that can climb straight vertically. It takes its feet, it finds out a little crag or crevice, puts his feet there, brings his back feet up, puts them there, and goes to the next one. The only animal that can climb straight up, called an ibex. That's what I named my company after. All right. Psalm 119:101. I have refrained my what? Feet from every evil. Notice that word way. See the way? That might keep thy what? Word. So he didn't want to go against God's word any evil way. In other words, that which is not what God's way says, that's someone else's idea. That's like, nope, not going there. All right, Psalm 119:105. Because it's an acrostic, for every psalm is one of the alphabetical letters. So this is none, which is the letter N, I guess, very similar to N. Thy word is a lamp unto my what? Feet. Now that's feet's a metaphor, and lamp is a what? Metaphor. And a light unto my what? Path. There's feet, and there's the word lamp. So you can see this is a compound metaphor. Ready for this? How many have ever spoken to somebody about the word? Tried to help them understand. Anyone here? Raise your hand. Okay. Now I can say something about you. I'm going to give you the instance here. No one's ever told you this, but I'm going to read it to you. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publish peace, that bringeth good tidings of good, that publish salvation, so saith unto Zion, thy God reigneth. So if you teach the word accurately, then you got beautiful feet. So guess what I got? I got beautiful tootsies. Yeah, I got beautiful feet. And you do too. All right. Matthew. Now here we get into some really intense stuff. Got your seatbelts on? Okay. Going to give you some MOA. Here we go. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs. What? What? Why would you give something that's holy to dogs? It's not talking about bow wows. It's talking about what? People. They're no different than dogs. Neither cast your pearls. Well, how valuable are pearls? Very valuable. That which is the choicest gems you got. Before swine. So that's a Gentile. That's like, swine is like Gentiles. They are, both of these are referring to ungodly people. And turn again and rend you. So, give not that which is holy, what's holy, God's word, unto dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest, perhaps, that they trample them under what? Their what? Their thoughts. How many ever try to teach the word and have someone just try and attack you? Boy, do I have fun with them. I even tried myself. I even put myself on the head of Facebook's archaeological department and I joined and I also wound up as the assistant administrator. I also did the same thing with NASA. They found out, and I taught the word, and they were like, I had everybody attacking me. It was so much fun. They didn't have a chance. It was more fun. The more you get challenged, the better you what? The better you become. So I enjoy challenges. It makes me what? Stranger. No, it makes me stronger. Well, stranger too, maybe. Right? So don't give those. Don't try and make someone eat something that they're not hungry. All right, Matthew 10:14. And whosoever shall not receive you, this goes with that, notice it. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words. Who are you speaking for? God. That means at the time you're doing that, you're an angel. I'm an angel, right? That's what you are. You're a messenger for God. I'm not saying you should stand in a big burning bush. I'm just saying to speak as God gives you utterance. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when you depart out of that house or that city, shake off the dust of your feet. What is that about? Where did the dust come from? Shall not receive you nor hear you. When you depart out of that house or that city, what do? And think of them what? No more. Because what did they just show you? I don't want to hear it. That's okay. Not a problem. They have their own gods. All right, Matthew 18:8. Wherefore, if thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off. And you notice that Peter was missing both arms and feet, right? No, he wasn't. He had both his hands. Yes or no? He had both his feet. Yet nobody blew it as bad as Peter. So how does that work? Was Jesus lying? No. The word foot is a what? Metaphor. What are you supposed to remove from you? The thoughts that are not what? So the thoughts that Peter had before, he no longer what? had. He cut them off from his life. Does that make sense? Stop thinking about it. Just shake it off your foot. Yeah, that's it. Not bringing it in my mind anymore. I mean, how many of you went to the bathroom 3 days ago? When you flushed it, do you ever bring it back to mind? Did you take pictures of it? You just get rid of it. And you bring it back to mind no more. I don't care how many times you looked at it, examined it, measured it. You don't think about it. You let it what? Go. You let go of that. You don't bring it to mind. I don't think about that stuff. You don't. So yes, you can forget whatever you want to. Because you do it every day. Sometimes 3 times a day. Moreover, if thy hand or thy foot, hand is what you do. How many have ever done a dumb shit? Right? So what do? Think about it. Oh, I did a dumb shit. Oh, I did a dumb shit. When did you do it? 10 years ago. Oh, I did that. What is your problem? Let what? Go of it. You can't make it better. Just let it go. Does that make sense? If thy hand, that's the things that you do, or thy foot offend thee, if it's keeping you from being your best for God, it is better for thee to, all right, cut them off. Get them out of your life. Don't bring them back to mind anymore. What are feet? Foot is your what? Thoughts. Hand is your actions that you remember. How many have done stuff and not remember doing it? So if you can forget that stuff, why not forget the other? Yes or no? People, I had a bad time when I was a child. All right, right. Do you remember everything from childhood? No, but I remember that. Really? Okay. Do you remember Christmas? How many gifts did you get? How many gifts did you get from your birthday to Christmas all the way up until your age right now? How many gifts have you received? Okay, make a list of all of them. You can't. You can't remember a hand full. 5, 4, maybe. So what are you worried about? You have selective amnesia. You chose to forget that stuff. Choose to forget that stuff. It doesn't have any bearing anymore. Yes or no? Let it what? Go. Write it on a piece of paper, crumple it up, throw it in the fireplace, and light it. It's gone. Or, yeah, write it on some toilet paper and flush it. Right, okay. Let all that stuff go. Is this all making sense? This is really, people are harboring stuff that they're carrying around as baggage. It's like breaking their hearts and breaking their minds. Freaking let it go. We all have this selective amnesia. Well, select that and get rid of it. How many remember going to the dentist when you were 6? I know you went. Did you remember it? Remember them opening your mouth and drilling into your tooth? No. You don't remember that? All right, Mark 5:22. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. That's the guy, the big tall guy, the top man in the synagogue. And when he saw Jesus, he fell at his what? Why? Why did he fall at Jesus' feet? He was clumsy. No, he put his head at Jesus' what? He put his thoughts at the feet of what? Jesus. Why? Because his thoughts were more superior than what? Than his. His daughter was at the point of death. He gave up everything, went to Jesus and put his head right at his feet. And Jesus went and healed her. That's pretty intense. And that's in Mark 5:22. It's all these things you can read. But you see, he went to his feet, put his head, which is his glory, at the feet of Jesus. I think that's awesome.